Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive paradigm shift based on Dr. Gary Meadors' theological lectures. If you've ever really struggled with a big life decision, wondering how biblical figures actually navigated their choices, you might be totally shocked to learn that our modern assumptions about how God communicates, they're actually entirely backwards from the Old Testament reality.
So let's start by asking a question we all kind of wrestle with. Have you ever been completely paralyzed trying to uncover God's highly customized, personalized plan for your next big life choice? You know the feeling. Whether it's a career shift or moving to a new city, there's this heavy, almost crushing anxiety to decode exactly what you are supposed to do. We tend to look up at the sky just waiting for a highly specific sign. But Dr. Meadors asks us to completely reframe that entire approach. Because what if I told you that uncovering an individual will ahead of time is actually a modern myth? It's true. According to the source lecture, this relentless search for a personalized roadmap is really fueled by American rugged individualism, not the Bible itself. It simply doesn't align with the Old Testament text. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to deconstruct the myth of individualism, look at patterns of direct revelation, explore the values deposit, reject pagan divination, and then finally, look at a really practical model through the prophet Daniel. All right, let's jump into section 1, the myth of individualism.
Dr. Meadors points out something fascinating here. He notes that American culture, which was popularized really deeply during the Kennedy era, is rooted in this idea of rugged individualism, and this mindset just naturally bled right into modern churches. Believers routinely ask God for a customized career blueprint, but the text emphatically notes that there simply is no individualistic model in Scripture to find out your specific life path ahead of time. No way.
The absolutely crucial shift here is all about the verbs. We have to move from finding to doing. Deuteronomy 6 repeatedly commands believers to observe and do the laws that were already given. The ancient Israelites weren't commissioned to hold committee meetings or beg for fresh daily instructions. Not at all. They were commanded to take the self-disclosed teachings they already had and simply apply them. Okay, moving right along to section 2, patterns of direct revelation. Historically speaking, God's revelation just wasn't an open audience room. You couldn't just walk out into the desert and expect a personalized answer. The lecture outlines a clear evolution, starting from ancient oral traditions passed around campfires, moving to the codified Torah at Sinai, and finally coming through select post-Mosaic prophets. Direct revelation was strictly at God's discretion for major redemptive events. It was never meant to be personal advice. To really give you a sense of scale here, think about Abraham. He lived around 2000 BCE. And while his story feels incredibly action-packed when we read it, he actually experienced massive time gaps, sometimes literal decades, between direct communications from God. I mean, imagine waiting 20 years for a text back. God orchestrated history over super long periods, speaking only to chosen individuals to move a grand narrative forward. Now, you might be wondering how a message even survived those massive gaps. Well, unlike our modern telephone game, where a whispered message is hilariously corrupted after just 10 people, ancient orality was incredibly precise. Transmitting information orally back then was a highly stable, formalized way to pass down God's laws across generations without losing the truth. Which brings us right to section 3, the values deposit. So, how did the average ancient person actually make decisions without a voice booming from the sky? They used what Dr. Meadors calls the values deposit. Basically, by listening to the narratives of their leaders, both their massive victories and their catastrophic flaws, the community developed a profound internal worldview. That worldview, not some fresh word from above, is what guided their everyday moral choices. A perfect example of failing to use this values deposit is Abraham's nephew, Lot. Lot had a front row seat to Abraham's mentorship. But when it came time to divide their land, Lot made choices based entirely on convenience. He looked towards Sodom simply because the grass was greener for his cattle. He compromised his entire spiritual legacy and ignored the proper worldview just to feed his livestock. But here's a really wild detail. Despite those terrible decisions, the New Testament, specifically 2 Peter, actually calls Lot righteous. Why in the world would it say that? Well, because deep down, he did possess the right values deposit. The source notes describe him acting kind of like a judge trapped under mafia control in Sodom. The clash between his internalized righteous values and his awful environment literally vexed his soul every single day. The prophets were constantly hammering home this reliance on the values deposit.
Isaiah 8:20 explicitly anchors all decision-making to the established law and testimony, saying, "If they speak not according to this word, there is no light in them." The established code was the absolute standard. It was never about spontaneous feelings.
All right, Section 4, Rejecting Pagan Divination.
The surrounding nations practiced extensive divination. We're talking casting lots, reading animal organs, relying heavily on astrology. Why did they do this? Because they lacked adequate moral laws. They were terrified of displeasing their unpredictable gods, so they desperately sought out mediums to give them a direct sign for every minor decision. They were basically treating the divine like a cosmic magic 8-ball. And this built a really stark contrast with Israel, who strictly condemned these practices. Magic and mediums were outlawed precisely because God had already provided an adequate, self-disclosed code. The Israelites didn't need to read water in a bowl to figure out how to live. They had the Torah. Seeking a medium was an outright insult to the clarity of the values deposit.
Now, sure, there were brief, super rare exceptions sanctioned by God, like the Urim and Thummim used by the priests. But as the source material shows, this was incredibly short-lived. Once God transitioned communication from priests to the prophets, these divination-like tools vanished completely from biblical history. The focus returned strictly to obeying the declared word.
Let's bring this all together in Section 5, the Daniel model.
The prophet Daniel models this framework absolutely perfectly. Living in exile in Babylon, Daniel didn't demand a customized roadmap for his intense government career. He recognized his complete dependence on existing revelation. He simply organized his daily habits, like intentionally opening his windows toward Jerusalem to pray, around the values deposit he already knew, and he patiently watched God's sovereign will unfold.
And this Old Testament paradigm, it carries right over into the New Testament. As the Apostle Paul confirms in Romans 2, being instructed out of the law equates directly to knowing the will of God. The terms are practically interchangeable. God's moral will isn't some secret puzzle you have to solve. It's a standard you just have to learn and apply.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative challenge. When you're faced with your next big life decision, are you going to stall while seeking a personal sign from the sky? Or are you actively doing the word, applying the values deposit, and organizing your life around the clear teachings you already have? It's a massive paradigm shift for sure, but it's one that completely frees us from decision paralysis. Thanks for joining this explainer of Dr. Meadors' lecture, and keep diving into the source material.